everybody, and welcome to Yeah, We Read It. My name is Laura. I'm one of the hosts.
My name is Meggie. I am the other host.
That sounded like you put an R in
I'm
there.
the other host. I'm a ghost.
I'm a
It sounds
ghost.
like I'm like a Midwestern ghost. I'm a ghost.
I'm a ghost. More ghosts in this book, honestly.
I was just gonna say, hey, you know what's something that we need to bring back? Glow-in-the-dark nuns.
Hey,
right?
think
We were
about
talking about that in
that.
Vampire
What a
Diaries.
great callback to bring throughout the lineage of this podcast. True fans are like, this is the most excellent bit.
I still don't really remember what the purpose of glow-in-the-dark nuns is.
I'm pretty sure it was during Vampire Diaries.
It was Vampire
I think
Diaries.
we were talking about different threats they could have battled. Or something along those lines.
And I can tell that we really liked the idea because I just have a untitled Google Doc in my Google Drive, and it is glow-in-the-dark nuns, size 72 font, and it's highlighted and it's bolded.
Wow, that's really important.
I'm not sure where we were gonna go with it, but we want to do something with it.
We'll get somewhere someday. Speaking of, we're in the middle of Twilight right now. You gotta start with a long tangent,
Exactly.
We're reading Twilight right now. We're over the hump. We're over halfway through at this point. We're finishing up Eclipse right now, and then we're just doing Breaking Dawn. For any of you big old Twi heads out there, we're not doing the other Twilight books, the ones that she wrote afterwards.
We are not doing Midnight Sun, which is Twilight from Edward's point of view, and we are not doing the gender swapped one, though the names for the gender swapped one, so funny.
What are the names?
I'm going to look it up right now.
Is it Edwina for Edward?
It's actually insane names, and I don't know what she was cooking
His name is
with.
Bellark.
Okay, so Bella is Boo, like Beau.
That's Bo.
Edward is, I don't know. Who knows? Edward is Edith. Edythe. Jacob is Julie. That kind of makes sense. Dr. Carlisle is...
Wait, I'm sorry, go back. You just mispronounced Edith so hard and kept rolling with it. As if you've never heard of that name before.
What did I say? I don't even remember.
Edith?
Okay, moving on. Dr. Carlisle is Dr. Kareen. Esme, what am I doing? What am I saying? Esme is Ernest.
I like that.
Alice is Archie. That's really cute.
That's cute.
Emmett, Eleanor. Rosalie, Royal.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
that
slay, one. I guess.
Billy to Bonnie. Jessica to Jeremy. Angela to Alan. Jasper to Jessamine.
I just like sometimes Stephanie Meyer just like it gets so weird with like just like making up like a fancy name. Like it's like, how do you have Jane and Aro and like Caius, and it's like, well then how did Jane get in the mix of these people?
Hey Laura, try to take a stab at what you think the gender swapped name for Eric is.
Wait, who's Eric?
One of the friends.
Oh, her name
it's not gonna be
it's not Aaron, I bet, which would make the most sense.
No, it's exactly what you think it is.
Is it Eagle?
No, it's Erica.
Oh,
she
that
just
makes more sense.
slapped an A on the end.
Hey, good for her.
So we're not gonna be doing the gender swapped one.
Well, we talked about the names in the story, which is just as fun.
So, unfortunately, you guys are just going to have to buckle up as we get ready to discuss part 2 of Eclipse.
Yes, where we left off, for those of you who didn't listen to the first episode, first of all, huge miss on your part. It's great. Go back and listen to it. But
we were being hilarious.
If you're like, no, I'm just in for the second part, then we just wrapped up with finding out that Jasper was a Confederate, finding out that the killings in Seattle are actually a baby vampire army. Sexy. And the Cullen family being like, let's call our vampire pals in Alaska and see if they'll help us find this vampire army that's probably coming to find us. And the friends in Alaska, Tanya and crew, say no. And then Bella's like, well, this sucks. People are probably going to die that I care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we know, the Tenalis, the Alaska family, they have a little bit of beef because the werewolves killed Laurent, and Laurent was staying with them for like not even that long enough of a time, in my opinion.
Well, like, and also Laurent tried to kill a human. So like, isn't that like a big deal in this kind of group of people?
You would think, but double standards.
Whatever. Double standards. Alice is really trying to change the whole tune of like, we're all probably gonna die because of this baby vampire army that's coming. And she's like, let's talk about this grad party I really want to throw for you, Bella. And Bella is really not down because she's worried about people who come to this grad party potentially dying, which does make sense.
That's true, but if she had party potatoes at her grad party, maybe things would be looking up.
Yeah. Yeah, party potatoes freaking slap.
God, they're so good. They were my favorite part of grad parties.
Man, if we all got, party potatoes before we all got to say goodbye on this earth, that's a pretty good life.
That would be your last meal?
I mean, just a huge heap and portion of party potatoes. But basically the whole thing is Bella can't be left alone in any way, shape, or form because, like, people are after her. Mm-hmm. So she's hanging out with Jacob for her safety while Edward is out hunting, because of course. And Bella's like, Jacob, why don't you come to my grad party? And he's like, Bella, I'm in love with you. And she's like, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, Jacob's gotten balls to the walls. He doesn't sleep because he paces outside of her house, like, watching over her. It's pretty obvious that he is in love with her. And while she's over at his house, he falls asleep, he wakes up, he's like, now is the time to take advantage of telling you that I am in love with you, I want you to pick me over Edward. And she says, I love you, but not like that. And then he says the very reasonable thing of, I'll wait. Then he literally forces himself on her to kiss her.
And Bella, instead of, I guess, doing something about it, she just kind of, like, stands there like a little statue and like waits for him to be done.
Yeah, well, she can't even like fight him because he's so strong.
And then things go from bad to worse because afterwards Bella's rightfully mad and she punches him in the face, but he's also basically solid rock and she breaks her hand trying to like scold him, but then instead she threatens to murder him as well, which I think is so funny, to just be like, I'm gonna murder you after you broke my hand.
I love this scene so much. It is such a slapstick comedy because the next move is for this delusional bitch Jacob to drop her off so that Edward can pick her up, and he is on the drive over being like, I really think that kiss was incredible. I think it was pretty great.
I think I said this in the first book, that there were so many parts of the first book that were just like actually genuinely funny that I don't think we're trying to be. And if Stephanie Meyer just kind of leaned into how stupid some of the things she's writing is and made this book a comedy, it'd be so good.
I mean, truly, some of the interactions between Jacob and Bella were just so funny because it feels like she hates him and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
He is never going to be unmoved.
Yeah. And then my favorite thing about this whole thing where Jacob has to take her to Charlie so Bella can call Edward so he can come pick her up to take her to Dr. Cullen is Edward comes and he's not even picking a fight. He's just using his words to tell Jacob off. Like, you really think there would be some sort of like kind of brawl here, but Edward's just like, oh, so you just think you can kiss her now?
And once again, the best part about Jacob is he's like, I know I have nothing to lose. So he just stands there kind of amused by everything. You
and
cannot
honestly,
get to
same.
him.
I was like, this is actually really funny.
And not only is Jacob just kind of there letting Edward berate him with a big smirk on his face, Charlie's not as concerned as he should be that his daughter broke her hand punching a guy who kissed her when she didn't want it.
I gotta.
He also is kind of like, well, like he had to take a gamble at it. He had to try, Bella.
I do gotta say this now. Bella breaks her hand, and it's almost like a. They don't imply whether she gets a cast or whether it's like just like a bandage, but then they never acknowledge it the rest of the book where more things are happening that like her hand is like severely injured. I think they mention like that it happened briefly, but they don't mention the aftermath at all.
No, I think just like sometimes she's a little uncomfortable and she has to readjust, but she really does break her arm and then people like no one cares. Charlie is like, good for Jacob. Jacob is like, I think that kiss was pretty great. And then Edward's the only one who's like objectively pissed off.
Yeah. And Bella's really just all bark, no bite. Bella also learns after Jacob leaves that Evan and Jasper have created a bet for when Bella becomes a vampire of how many people she'll kill in her first year because she has such bad temper tantrums. And I thought this was so funny. And I just wanted a chapter of Emmett and Jasper discussing the rules of this bet because, again, so funny.
They are so funny. God. So graduation day does end up arriving, and Bella kind of pieces together that whoever made this army of newborns in Seattle, they stole stuff from her room so they can track her. So she decides to tell Edward this at the fine opportune time of graduation and also inform his family at the grad party that Alice is throwing. So, like, back to back, she's just taking L's.
But I also thought this was really interesting because, like, I thought it was kind of implied already that the Seattle thing was very much tied to, like, Bella's room going astray.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, because that was laid on, like, pretty thick throughout this book so far. And then for Bella on page 348 to be like, oh, they're the same. I was like, girl, what? We've been experiencing the same thing this whole time. This feels pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, because they were already hypothesizing.
Yeah.
They were like, I think that the newborns are somehow tied to us. They're way too close. They're literally in Seattle killing.
Exactly. This revelation does not pay off the way I think Stephanie Meyer wanted it to, because it's just like, yeah, no shit, they're the same.
I love that it took so many pages. Like, no one has a cautious or thoughtful, logical bone in their body, because even when the vampire was ransacking her room, they were like, maybe it's a friendly vampire. Maybe he's curious.
Yeah, what if it's just like a friendly ghost?
It's just like, hey, we're introducing ghosts now.
After graduation, Bella is forced to go to a bar and order a burger with her dad. It really sucks to be her. And then she has to go to her grad party that her future sister-in-law planned for her. What a horrible life she has.
She gets a lot of gifts there. Boo-hoo her.
Yeah, really, really, really sad life Bella's leading.
And one of these gifts is a leather band with a little wolf charm that Jacob made for her. And he's pretty upset that she doesn't like the gift and also that she didn't enjoy the kiss. He's like shocked by this. He's
yeah,
like,
Bella's
what?
like, I don't want you here. And he's like, why? I brought you a present.
He cannot take a hint.
No, it's so funny.
God.
And then he's like, okay, Bella, you calm down. I'm gonna go ask Alice what's been up with like the whole thing. Fill me in on the big scoop. So Alice is like, here's what's been happening for the past 30 pages. A little baby vampire army is coming to Forks, Washington. And Jacob's like, oh, cool, the wolves want in. Like, no discussion. He's just like, yeah, we'll do that.
So Jake decides that they are going to team up with the Cullens to take the vampires down, and they plan to meet up at 3 a.m. later that night. And Bella, of course, is like, yeah, I can stay up. That is a little bit past my bedtime, but I think I can stay up until
I don't understand. Like, they keep having these, like, rehearsals almost, it seems like. I don't know if they're running plays or they're just discussing, like, what's gonna happen, but it doesn't really seem like the most useful time, because they do this multiple times.
They do.
And Bella's like, I think Victoria might be the root cause. And I was like, again, I kind of felt like that was implied because we already introduced her as the villain for the past 2 books.
I mean, sure, 3 a.m. is the witching hour, but also 3 a.m. is when Bella is cooking up all the ideas. Because that's when she sits straight up in bed and she's like, oh, Victoria.
Yeah.
It has to be Victoria.
But again, it doesn't, like, Bella doesn't really give much to this. It's almost like she just has to, like, sit down while, like, the grown-ups play and plan and do their job. And Jacob and Edward's big thing, of course, is how are they going to keep Bella safe during this fight?
Exactly. So Jasper is teaching the people how to kind of fight, because as we know from part 1, he taught newborns. The wolves are going to take 10 newborns. The Cullens are going to take 10. And someone just hands Bella an iPad, like an iPad baby, so she can just kind of sit on the sidelines and enjoy.
Edward's listening to the adults facing them, but off to the side, he's just jingling his keys in front of her, so that way she has something to look at.
He's just going peekaboo nonstop with his hands in front of her.
And then occasionally he has to go, hold on, Jasper. Bella, stop eating grass. Bella, spit that out.
So Bella is rolling around having tummy time while they are
She literally is a little baby in this book. Like, I think they'll describe it soon, or maybe it was in the last part. This is all blurring together, but like they talk about like how like Edward had to hand her over to Jacob and like not let her touch the ground, and it was like, come on.
Oh, was that like one of the ones where they met up for the handoff? Literally, of
Yeah,
like
I think it might be in. I think
divorced
it's in this
parents.
part too. Embarrassing.
So they come up with tactics on what they're gonna do. Again, wolves are gonna take 10 people, Cullens are gonna take 10 people.
Yeah.
And they are doing this for a while because the newborns, they are going to attack in 4 days. So they're
Yeah.
gonna need to mask Bella's scent. And they're gonna do this by having Jacob carry her because
This is exactly the scene I was describing. Edward was carrying her home.
Yes, it was.
And then they went, we have to change her scent. And instead of like Bella, like, and the fact that Edward is already carrying her is hilarious. But the fact that he's like, all right, up you go on the puppy now.
She's got a little binky in her mouth.
Yeah. It's like, be careful.
So Jacob is carrying little Goo Goo Gaga, Bella. And Alice tells Edward on the phone that, oh God, I forgot about this. So Bella has this grand idea that she wants to be in the middle of this fight as bait.
It's because I think Bella just like wants to be really important to Edward. I even forgot about that. I didn't even write that down. That's so funny.
I feel like she like I love the idea of she unintentionally becomes bait. It's like when the baby is crawling and they're too close to something and they're like, Bella, no, because she's just crawling to the middle of the clearing.
Yeah. Also, Bella has suddenly forgiven Jacob. She's now wearing his charm bracelet. Edward's like, this is a bracelet with a wolf charm on it. And she's like, yeah, it's from Jacob, the other guy that loves me. Are you okay with that?
And Edward is like, well, I would kind of like to give you something to also wear. Because Bella has this like weird thing where she will accept gifts from everyone.
Yeah.
But Edward, because she thinks Edward is too hot for her.
And too rich for her. Which
would really hurt my feelings. I would be like, all right, well, fine. I guess you can wear this thing that this guy likes you for.
Yeah.
And not from me.
It's so weird. But Bella also learns that Leah Clearwater is also a werewolf. That's a fun little drop, that there's girl wolves too.
And Embry is also a werewolf now too. And this has caused a little bit of a stir because his mom moved to Forks and no one knows his dad. So did someone have an affair? Was it Billy?
We don't know.
Billy busting it out?
We get a little side Billy busting it out. We get a little side plot. Edward basically gets Alice to ruse that she's gonna babysit Bella while Edward goes investigates things. But surprise, Alice was just watching her as a front. Edward just wanted them to have some alone sexy time.
Mm-hmm.
But not right now. They have to go rehearse first. So the vampires and werewolves meet again. And Jacob babysits Bella while they practice at this rehearsal.
When Bella and Edward are having their alone time, though, she decides that there's one thing she wants before he turns her into a vampire, and she wants to fuck.
Justified, honestly.
Honestly?
Justified. Absolutely justified.
I don't want to know what having sex is like.
Right? Because I would want to be able to compare what human sex was like versus vampire sex. That feels extremely reasonable to me.
But she's not really telling him this. She kind of does it in this convoluted way of jumping his bones. And then that's when he pieces together. He's like, oh, no, no sex.
Yeah.
And she kind of thinks he's rejecting him. And he's like, oh, no, sweetie, let me be clear. I'm not rejecting you. And then she starts begging. He gives in, he like makes out.
It's embarrassing. Like she's full on begging him to fuck her.
Yes, and he's like, we can fuck, but only if we get married first.
Which is like, so he wants to save themselves for marriage. He's 300 years old. He's never had sex because he's been saving himself for marriage.
Yes.
And because Bella is horny and Edward wants to get married, they're like, well, I guess we should get married this summer so we can finally fuck. And then he proposes.
He does. And does she say yes? I don't even remember.
She does say yes, and he says thank you after.
Oh my God. And also, okay, so another reason, obviously, besides like he is going to break her if they have sex, she figures out he's holding out on not having sex with her because he's, quote, protecting her virtue because he wants her to get into heaven.
Yeah. He like literally wants them to save themselves for marriage for religious reasons.
Oh, and you're like, okay, well, surely he's probably fucked someone. He's been alive since the Spanish influenza in like
Exactly, but he
1907.
hasn't.
What's the point of living for that long if you haven't had sex?
God, we can like it's okay if you're just not a sexual person, Edward, but don't act like you're just being some weird virtue, boy of God.
I know. Is he like nervous? He's like, oh, I've had decades that I could be practicing, and instead, like, if I was a virgin for a century, I
Yeah.
would respectfully. That's what would make me go to the Volturi and be like, I can't get
I
anyone to
can't
fuck
get
me.
laid.
I can't
Um,
get laid.
but like also here's another big issue that I have with this book that's supposed to be this big romantic book is you'd think like Edward like wanting to propose would be this whole like beautiful speech, but it's just like no, he's like this is the ring. Do you like it? It was my mom's. Please marry me. Or it's like not even a question. There's no romance to it at all, which is so lame. It's like give me something to giggle and kick my feet about. But there's
Exactly.
nothing.
It's not. It's also like hard because I feel like she used every single word that she knows in this book. So like when you say I love you the same time about 1700 pages in, what are we? Over 3 books? Just like a
Yeah.
lot. It's like, all right, well you got to kind of bring out the guns for this one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. A night or so later, they're on their way to the clearing when Bella does what Bella does best and she falls and she cuts her hand open. I assume her non-broken one, again, it's not described. She starts bleeding and rubbing it on rocks as like help bait to
Mhm.
maybe steer the vampires in that direction. Again, it's not like a fully thought out plan. It's just like this is what we're gonna do. Edward doesn't deter her because I don't think he wants to hurt her feelings. So that's that.
He's like, just let her play with the keys. Let her
Yeah,
do her thing.
yeah. He's
Edward does tell her that her blood doesn't bug him anymore, and prior to the battle, there's obviously going to be someone who is babysitting Bella and staying back with her. And I get a little bit pissed off because she's like, well, hey, Edward, if the fight's going to be so easy, if you're not actually worried about it, why don't you sit out?
yeah.
And I'm like, I was a little bit pissed off here because the risk of dating a vampire is he's going to be in danger sometimes.
Yeah.
And now his family has to fight without him.
Yeah, she's like just let your family take care of me essentially. And this scene is also really weird because it's like Edward can't be the one to take her to like her little hiding spot. He's just gonna meet her there. So they have Jacob carry her to the hiding spot. And Edward's just pacing, being like, what took you guys so long?
I know,
they get
yeah.
there?
When she gets dropped off, and also like on this run is when Jacob is like, this must
Oh
be
my
the
God,
perfect
he's like-
opportunity to bring up. You thought about picking me yet?
Yeah, he's like, I still want to kiss you. Think about that. And she's like, he's like, think about this. I'm also second in command of my pack.
He's pulling out all the stops to
Yeah.
get her. He does kind of keep guilting her for not coming to see him, and she does call the kiss out as assault, rightfully so.
Yeah.
And she confides in him that she asked Edward to not fight. So
Yeah.
again, she's laying down all the no's. No.
Yeah, we also find out that there's some sort of storm happening right now and the tent is too cold, which doesn't make sense because it is the summer. Bella has just graduated high school and she has a sleeping bag, so it's not like the middle of winter, which they are very much acting like it is.
That is true because obviously, as we know, there's snowy ice caps. The top of the mountains would have, like, it must be a really high up mountain. The altitude must be like freezing. And if it's in the middle of summer,
mountains?
well, yeah, they have the Rockies. Well, actually, Washington. I don't know. I mean,
that's
for
the
the
thing
sake
that
of this,
confused me,
yes,
because they're like it's so cold in the sleeping bag. I was like, I still feel like in the summer the coldest I might get at night is like 50 degrees.
I know. I mean, it would have to be a really high altitude is the whole
Yeah,
thing.
but they never describe like, oh, carrying her up to the mountainside or anything. They just say it's another clearing deeper in the woods.
It seems like they don't have like a set bank of mountains. It's not like the Rocky or the Appalachians. They have specific individual ones. They have Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, just like a ton of different ones.
Again,
So
I feel like this was just poorly written, and we were supposed to believe that it was somehow snowing outside when that's not possible.
So she's up there, she's freezing her freaking ass off. We also learn that Jacob was actually supposed to be the alpha, the leader of his pack, but he didn't
Yeah.
want to, which I found very interesting. Jacob does come back with some clothes, and I mean, she's freezing her ass off.
Yeah. So he's like, don't worry. I'll get in that sleeping bag with her, Edward. You just watch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get this weird, like, 20-page scene where Jacob is like shirtless and holding Bella, and him and Edward are like leveling about being jealous of the other person, and Bella is dead silent the entire time.
Well, it's oh my god. I also like I mean, I don't love that Jacob forced himself on her and keeps
Yeah.
doubling down.
No,
But
it's
can
very
you
bad.
imagine how embarrassing it would be to be like shooting your shot in front of this girl's boyfriend?
Well,
He
like,
he's saying insane things too. Like it would be actually better. You would warm up more if you took your clothes off.
yeah. And it's like, and Edward's just there clenching his fists as he always does. But at the same time, I like, why isn't Bella telling him to shut up? Like, because she's awake this whole time. She's the one telling the story of what's happening in the book. It's a first person point of view book. So,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it
yeah.
seemed like she was like in between consciousness and falling asleep.
No, if Stephanie Meyer, if she was in between consciousness and sleep, she would have really played that up because that's how she writes those scenes when Bella is in between waking up and
That is
sleeping.
true. She loves her dreams.
She loves to be like, oh my gosh, and I just felt this dream, and oh, I was kind of dazed, but I heard this conversation. No, it was a crystal clear thing that happened.
So she is just a third party unwillingly.
Yeah. I think she enjoys it. I think she likes having these two guys fight over her.
Yeah, no, honestly. It's oh god, I do feel bad for Jacob when Edward's like laughing because he can hear his thoughts and Jacob's like, oh, he's laughing at me because I said I was growing my hair out because you like my hair longer. It's pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
And Jacob is I mean, they talk for a really long time. He's like, "Do you think she'll ever choose me?" And also, don't you want that, Edward? Like her to have a human life? And Edward's like, of course, but literally last time I left, almost killed both of us. So you tell me what to do.
Yeah.
You tell me what to do, buddy.
You
I
tell
don't
me
know.
what to do, buddy. Jacob disappears the next morning after Bella's like, oh, I'm so warm after that night sleeping next to a dog. And Bella and Edward basically just relay their romance together in the tent and are like, I can't believe we're engaged and we're going to be married. But Jacob, super puppy hearing, he hears this, and all they hear is him screaming in agony when he learns that they are engaged. And Bella gets so upset. Like grief upset. Like she just found out Jacob has died upset. She like exits the tent in a flurry. She's bawling, and Edward's like, "It's okay, Bella. I'll go find him so you can talk to him." And Seth's like, "Just like maybe speed this up. The fight's about to happen. So if we could get all this emotional stuff out of the way."
It was so crazy too, because like instead of being mad at Edward, knowing that Jacob is overhearing this, she's mad at herself for not telling Jacob they're engaged, which honestly, I mean, that's fair, but
yeah, but it's like not even, sorry, not to interrupt. It's a weird sort of mad because she's actually sobbing. She's not like, Edward, you shouldn't have said that. She's like sobbing at the reality of losing Jacob.
He kind of had to pull out the big guns because in her sleep she was saying, quote, Jacob, my Jacob, which like
Ew.
I don't know, what do you do there? It also is important to note that they do kiss in the movies before he goes off to battle, but they don't in the books.
Wow.
I do want to
the movies tend to, I feel like, play up these love triangles more so than they do in the books, which is interesting because you feel like a book would have way more fun with it.
Yeah. So Edward goes, she sends Edward off to get her second boyfriend. She's like, go get JV. Go get my JV boyfriend.
Yeah. And Jacob comes back, and Bella's like, I'm so sorry for hurting you, Jacob. This isn't how you should have found out. And he's like, it's okay. I'm just going to go die during this fight I'm about to have for these vampires that you attracted here.
Yeah, he's like, listen, I know how to redeem myself. I'll die in battle. And she's like, wait, no, don't do that.
And he says, okay, then make me the best man at your wedding.
And he's like, I mean, there's nothing else to do. I don't know what to do. And this is when she says, kiss me. And she says his lips find hers with an eagerness not far from violence, and that she, quote, knew he would take advantage of this situation. Darling, why not have boundaries?
Yeah, but then also here's the thing that Bella realizes during this kiss is that she does love Jacob, and not just in like a brotherly way, in a very romantical way. So
But
that's interesting.
It does start off as one of those very concrete kisses, and he pulls away. He's like, are you sure you want me to come back, or do you want me to die? Because she's not kissing back.
Oh my God.
And then, I mean, she does start kissing back, like Laura says.
Yeah.
And it kind of seemed like it was because she was horny. Like, she's, like, running her hand through his hair, like, pulling it, shit like that.
Yeah, no, and there's a literal quote of her being like, oh, shit, I'm in love with this person as well. But she's engaged to be married.
That's true.
So Jacob... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, she does kind of imagine, though, like, with him, she could have, like, a future and kids.
Yeah.
And whatnot.
So...
kind of important.
Edward comes back after this whole soiree. Jacob has disappeared. He knows about this kiss. He's like, we're good. I'm fine. Like, after this whole jealous conversation that they just had last night, I was kind of surprised that this didn't like flesh out into an actual fight more. Because I feel like I'd be pretty mad if like my partner offered to kiss somebody who wasn't me.
Well, yeah, and he also mentions, he's like, yeah, I kind of saw that Jake was gonna trick you by saying that he was gonna die in battle. For a little smoocheroo, which I also would be like, it's kind of manipulative. I don't really like my girlfriend doing that.
And then Bella's mad at Edward for not being jealous. And then she starts yelling at him to kiss her because he should want to kiss her just as badly as Jacob did. It's a whole thing.
So while they are fighting about how he is a coward because he just doesn't experience jealousy because he's really mature, he's been around for a century. I guess fucking for and not fucking for a century just makes you a guru, just zen.
Yeah, you're very like monk-like, I guess. No.
So while they're sitting there and Edward is transcending to another plane of existence, Victoria shows up, and she has this newborn boy, Riley, who she is basically her second in command, is kind of a stand-in for James, who helped her bring up all of the newborn vampires. And Edward's play at being found just with Bella and having no extra protection, is letting Riley know Victoria doesn't care about you. She will let you die by my hands. Like, she's expecting it. She wants a distraction.
Yeah.
So she can kill Bella.
This scene is really interesting because it's like, first Edward's like narrating the actual fight, and then Victoria has somehow traced the set despite all their efforts. And then Edward's just addressing Riley as if he's this character that we've known the entire time, even though we're only learning about him as Edward is addressing him. So I was like, why do we have to name this character? He's clearly not important. But it's almost like we're addressing him as like, Riley, you don't have to do this, as if we're supposed to care about Riley all of a sudden. And I was like, I don't know who this bitch is.
Yeah, because it's not like they're gonna give him like absolution and he's gonna become a Cullen.
Yeah.
It's so obvious he's going to die. They say that
right
in the beginning.
And then we get kind of like this 2-on-2 battle. Seth tackles Riley, Victoria versus Edward. We get little to no action description. The only things we know are that Seth rips both of Riley's arms off.
Yeah,
and then Edward rips Victoria's head off. And then they gather all of the parts to burn their bodies.
Yes, this is true. Bella does serve as, she's like foaming at the mouth to hurt herself. She cuts herself enough that Victoria gets distracted, and that is what it gives Edward and Seth the leverage to finish off Victoria and Riley.
Yeah. And after they burn the bodies, Edward's like, good news, the fight in the clearing ended too. Like, we don't get any of this huge fight.
And also, Edward asks the very rational question, Bella, I just beheaded and dismembered a sentient creature 20 yards from you. That doesn't bother you?
And she says no. And honestly, it should bother Edward that was her reaction. He should be second guessing his choice of life partner. And kind of it feels like Edward asks this question a lot over the last 100 pages. And I think he's more asking it for himself.
Oh, like he like wants an out?
Yeah, he's like, are you sure you made the right choice, Bella? Are you sure you want to come through with this, Bella?
I know. I mean, she's not fazed by anything. She has like her moments of like disassociating to respond to trauma. But for the most part, she's like, no, honestly, I'm fine. Yeah. I'm fine that you beheaded someone in front of me.
She's like, well, I mean, I don't really see what else you were going to do.
I didn't really see any other course of action.
This was really the only solution was for Riley's arms to get ripped off and for Victoria's head to get ripped off.
I know, Bella's so like, I mean, he was asking for it.
Yeah.
It was kind of hot, Edward. I don't know what you're talking about.
Things get very confusing all of a sudden because he's like, great, the fight's over. We have to leave right now. And Bella's like, well, wait, let's pause. I have to assess everything that's been happening.
And he goes, no, because actually I can read Alice's mind right now, and the Volturi did decide that now is the time to intercede.
Let's just live in the moment. Let's just be together.
Let's just be here.
Let's just, like, never forget this.
I kind of feel like Bella is the person that will have a very mundane like time at a party and then like play it up later, and she's like, you don't understand, it was wild, you guys. There was keg stands, and really she was just kind of standing in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the Volturi have decided to intervene. They finally caught on to this new baby vampire army, and they're here to scope it out. And Edward also drops that like Jacob was hurt, he's fine, he's healing.
Yeah, he intervened on Leah's behalf, and also the Volturi is taking care of this one newborn who kind of like waved a white flag and doesn't really know what she's doing, but they're like, I mean, we gotta kill her.
Yeah.
The Cullens don't get to make the decision to bring her in. We're gonna kill the newborn.
Yeah, it sucks. Carlisle was trying to be like, little one, there's another way, and Jane shows up and like, fuck that, Carlisle. Felix, kill her.
Fuck that. Kill
Literally,
her.
I really want like that. I feel like I would have liked this book series more if we got more Jane. Because she's awesome. I love her as a character. Because she doesn't give a shit about people, and that's great.
She doesn't give a shit. She is moderately impressed that Victoria made a whole ass army to kill Bella. She's like, damn, you're really that important?
Yeah. I know, she's also impressed, like, oh, you teamed up with the wolves. Interesting. Well, I guess we don't really need to be here anymore. Let's kill that girl and leave.
She does drop that Aro is going to be pretty interested to hear that Bella is still human, though, because obviously that was a little bit of a point in union. They got to turn her into a vampire.
And they're like, don't worry, we have the date set and everything. And Jane's like, couldn't care less. Bye.
So after the battle, Bella does her obligation of checking in with her bitch dad, and he
goes, how was shopping? And she's like, it was good. Like, I imagine her, like, covered in, like, mud and twigs and blood. And he's like, oh, did you have fun at the Macy's?
She's like, yeah. I actually tripped down the escalator, and that's kind of why I look like this.
He's like, didn't ask. Bye. Good night.
He does mention that Jake is awake. He's hanging out with Billy, who busted down Billy. Probably gave birth to Embry. I am going to say that Billy is Embry's dad.
I love it.
Confidently. I'm really curious if there are threads about this. But Charlie was like, Billy was kind of weird though, because he would like lose his shit every time he heard howling in the woods.
Yeah.
You think he was piecing it together, but no, he's
Charlie
like,
was just like, what a weird fishing trip. Well, I'm gonna put the football game on.
Billy always wanted to turn his boat back every time he heard just rustling in the trees.
Bella goes to check in on Jacob, who's healing himself because werewolves can do that. And Jacob's a little mad that Edward wasn't jealous about them kissing. So Jacob's still very much tormented by the woman that will never be his. He talks about the Bible story about the two mothers who claimed that they had the same child. So the king basically decided they should split the baby in half and they could each have a part of it.
Why did they bring that up?
I don't know if he was like being like, and I wouldn't want to split you up, or I feel like the mom in that story. I have no idea. It was a very weird analogy because I was like, well, That's a little bit of a different situation.
Well, I think we're taking it to the biggest
That's a little bit of a different situation.
Yeah. Is this okay? So I actually don't know where we are.
Oh,
I'm gonna
Bella.
be totally
Okay,
honest.
I'll cover. Here's my notes. Bella,
Yes.
after listening to this weird Bible story that Jacob's telling her, everybody's religious in Forks, Washington, apparently.
It's true.
Bella admits that she can see a future with Jacob, which I think is rubbing salt in the wound. But Jacob's like, no, this is just what I need to wait for you forever.
Yeah, this is true. Because previously she's like, "Hey, don't worry, we can be friends." Because it's always gonna be Edward. But then they also agree that they would be soulmates in a normal human world.
Yeah, but it's
So
like, well, I feel like I don't understand why Jacob wouldn't already accept that Bella isn't his soulmate, because like he didn't imprint on her, and that seems like a very big part of his culture. So like, wouldn't he be like, well, I really like this girl, but she's clearly not the person I imprinted on, so like she's not it for me.
I guess I wonder if you know about like what the difference between a crush and imprinting is, if like you haven't experienced it, because like you can have intense crushes and
Yeah, but it's like, but every other time it's mentioned, it's like very explicit, like they imprinted on this person and we all know about it, you know?
he does mention that he can't compete with an eclipse, even though he was Bella's son.
That's the title of the
That's
book.
where we get that Edward is supposed to be an eclipse, and she tells him that after the wedding is when she will be turned, and he's like, "Well, I don't really love that, but I'll be waiting in the wings if you change your mind still."
Yeah, and he's like, "All right, go get him, Slugger." Bella
get
drives
him,
home.
Slugger.
She pulls over to cry. Edward just like finds her and embraces her and then takes her home. And when Bella gets home, she's gonna take Jacob's bracelet off. I was laughing so hard at this because Bella tears, you know, she just broke this guy's heart, or he said he'll wait for her, and it's just like she can't reciprocate the feelings. She's gonna go take her little wolf charm bracelet off, and her boyfriend fiance stops her and says, "No. It's who you are. It's a part of you. It's just a bracelet."
And not only this, but like, so Bella essentially like breaks up with Jacob, is kind of what is going on. And Edward holds her throughout the entire night as she cries over her second boyfriend.
Yeah. And Edward does ask her if she made the right choice, and she's like, through her tears, like, yeah, of course I made the right choice. But it's like, I don't feel like you should be this upset.
No, I don't think you should either. I don't know, whatever. The sadness, anyways, it is short-lived because wedding preparations are in order now that Bella realizes this could be her last goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, and so Alice is wedding planning mode. She loves this shit. And Edward again, Edward looking for an out, suddenly uneasy about this whole marriage thing. And he's like, I just feel like you're doing all of this to people please everybody. And Bella's like, no, I want to do it right. And he's like, damn it, okay.
And he's like, I mean, if it makes you feel better, I will fuck you right now instead.
And she's like,
and turn you. But she's like, no. Now it all means, now the fucking means something to me.
Yeah.
Okay? Means something.
Yeah, she's like, I'm still grieving the loss of my second boyfriend. I can't fuck you without thinking about him the whole time, so we'll have to wait till I get over it in 2 weeks.
And then that's where it kind of is leaving, that they're going to plan this wedding. And we end with an epilogue that is from Jacob's point of view, getting the wedding invite, and a message in it from Edward saying, thank you for everything. And Jacob responds how you would expect Jacob to respond, which is just take off running and run forever because he's so mad.
To be honest, I wasn't really expecting that ending. I was just kind of like, this feels really weird. Jacob's usually like a pretty like fun-loving guy. I figured him to kind of rip the invitation up and be like, this sucks. Maybe jump off the cliff. But I wasn't expecting him to be like, I'm leaving Jacob Black behind as I wolf mode into the oblivion, which is really what happens at the end there. But that's just me.
That is what happens at the end. And I will say, I did look up who people think Embry's dad is while we were chatting.
Yeah.
And they think that it's Joshua Yulee. They think it's Sam's dad.
Wow.
Pretty interesting stuff.
That's pretty interesting. Let's do our canceled character first, Meg. Who is the canceled character of the episode? Because canceling in real life is bad, but canceling fictional characters is allowed in the world of literature.
Well, I mean, canceling can be a useful tool in real
yeah,
life.
yeah. But canceling can also be problematic. Think about that.
That's true, I guess.
Let's see. Who to cancel?
I'm going to pretty confidently say Jacob, just for constantly forcing himself on
That's
Bella.
so true. Yeah, that was icky and gross. We don't like that. That's a pretty resounding cancellation on our part.
Like, I hate it. If someone's not coming to you on their own terms, then it's like, it doesn't matter if their words mean anything, if their actions don't line up. Like, just take the L, dude.
Take the L, dude. Which brings us to our top 5 of this episode. I'm really excited about this one because the entire plot of Eclipse is very much Jacob and Edward at each other's arms. And Meggie and I said, hey, what if they just became best friends? So this is our top 5 activities that would make Edward and Jacob really reconcile and be besties.
Mm-hmm. And who wants to start?
You should start, Meg.
Okay. Coming in at number 5, they should do one of those 360 cameras on a ball launch ride. I've been watching a lot of those on TikTok.
Have you seen the one where the girl faints as it happens?
No.
Oh my God, there's this one where this girl just keeps fainting while it's happening. So she just passes out and wakes up, screams, and then passes out again. It's really funny,
That's really funny.
It's funny because she's okay. If I had just seen that with no context, I would have been like, oh my God.
Oh my God, no, I haven't seen that. Who do you think between the two of them would be the one who is most likely to pass out?
Edward.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say hands down.
Well, it's because it's like he already doesn't have like any blood, so it all just like there'd be nothing rushing to his head. He would just
air up there.
What little things are in his body would just drain from his consciousness, I imagine.
Oh, that's so funny.
Number 4, and this is a hot one for any of you people looking to be besties out there. Make a joint Instagram account and cyberbully a politician. I feel like Jacob and Edward to use their hateful words to be activists, you know?
Exactly. Just do what I do. Get on their cyberbully. You know who has me blocked? Not a politician, but Davina from Selling Sunset has me blocked on 3 Instagram accounts.
So you said I was blocked once, but Davina, I have more to say. And you got on a second Instagram account and you said, okay, Davina, here's my takes on you. And then you got blocked again and you said, I'm not done yet. No, Davina. I'm getting on a 3rd Instagram account.
I didn't like her. She was a sheep. She was a sheep that whole series.
She was really mean her first season. I will give you that.
She really was.
I remember she was kind of forgettable the other seasons.
I just didn't like her. Coming in at number 3, we have go to Mall of America and make a Build-A-Bear together.
Oh, get a wish on the heart, kiss it together. Maybe the heart falls as they're kissing it and they touch lips.
Could you imagine how fumigated? That's me saying fumed. Angry Bella would be if they posted a photo on Instagram of both of them kissing the opposite sides of the heart before they put it in the bear.
Should I write a fan fiction about Edward and Jacob going to the Mall of America?
Yes. Wait, Laura, please.
I need to write that down. That's so funny.
Oh my God, that'd be so great.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm putting that in my phone.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna multitask as we're doing this and go to number 2. This is a hot one from Meg. Go egg somebody's house, specifically Mike Newton. We hate that guy.
And then double down by, you guessed it, make another joint Instagram account and cyberbully Mike Newton.
Mike Newton's kind of a piece of shit. I get it.
Exactly. And coming in at number 1, we think that they should go on a mechanical bull together and they should just go wee as they ride it.
Amazing. They're kicking their little feet. They're holding on tight to each other. Their legs are squeezing the bull so they can stay on. How do you not become besties after that?
I think that's what'll fix them.
Yeah, I think that'll fix it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Eclipse. We did it. 1 more book to go. I'm so proud of us. Except Breaking Dawn is so fucking long. It's like 4 books in one.
Yeah, Laura, buckle up. It's a ride.
I'm not looking forward to it, but I am looking forward to being done with this so we can have our final thoughts on the series and we can talk about our forthcoming plans for the podcast.
And in the meantime, if you want to hang out and catch up with us, you can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at YahWeReddit. We are also on Instagram at Meggie_and_Laura. Or you can reach out to us our favorite way by email at
It's our favorite
MeggieandLauraPresent@gmail.com.
way.
It's our favorite.
We will so respond to you. We love getting an email. And also, if you have any things like you're like, guys, you got to read this, email us. And if it's also Maximum Ride, Meggie would really like that because Meggie does want to do Maximum Ride at some point, I hear.
I do. I feel like a lot of our friends kept pitching Maximum Ride. But honestly, pitch us any series.
Pitch us any series. I dare you.
Please
Are you going to turn down a dare?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get them, Laura.
Yeah. Yeah, I dared them all. So now they have to do it.
All right. Well, we'll see you in our email soon.
All right. We love you.
Bye.